Hi guys, I hope you're all safe and good in this quarantine season. When I think about it, the last time I posted a video was probably when quarantine was starting. So we're now in June, just in case anyone didn't know, and Miss Rona is still roaming the streets. But it's fine because by God's grace we're all safe, hopefully, and just enjoying the downtime, I guess. On top of that too, just in case you wanted to know, I finished my degree, so I'm very, very happy about that. But yeah, no, today, this video, basically, I'm going to be talking about self-love or a lack thereof. Self-love is a very common conversation that we have, especially in today's society, and it can be spoken about in a number of ways, whether that's to do with self-love of your body, love of your personality, love of your imperfections. But I'm actually going to talk about how your lack of it can be detrimental not only to yourself but also to the people around you, and why literally it just re-emphasizes the fact that like a lot of the stuff that we do to work on ourselves is not necessarily just for ourselves, but it's also for the benefit of other people. So I remember at some point last year I found this quote or phrase, and they basically said, I'm literally going to be reading on my laptop, which is like behind me. So, people who repeatedly attack your confidence and self-esteem are quite aware of your potential, even if you are not. I'm going to repeat it again so you can write it down. People who repeatedly attack your confidence and self-esteem are quite aware of your potential, even if you are not. Now, for me personally, reading that, it resonated with me so differently. Because I'd like to think I'm a nice person, but sometimes that niceness can be a breeding ground for people to talk anyhow. You get? So I feel like sisterhoods, brotherhoods, relationships cannot happen successfully when you don't truly love yourself. And I know that self-love is a journey. It's not like an overnight thing, but I feel like we all owe it to ourselves and the people around us to make it a continuous journey, something that we're continuously fighting to achieve. These relationships, situations, sisterhoods, brotherhoods also cannot happen if you don't know how to support anyone else but yourself, for fear of that person's success having an impact on your own, which first of all, whatever God has ordained for you and written for you will never be impacted by someone else's success. That's just number one. I feel like a lack of self-love or a lack of working towards it can be such a breeding ground for jealousy. And a lot of us think that jealousy is attributed to material things, like I'm jealous of the things that you own and things you have. But actually, no, it can be literally jealousy of a person's ability to project love to other people with ease. Some people can actually look at that and feel quite intimidated because it's like, oh, why can't I do that too? Instead of going to the person and being like, I just see that you love people so differently. How do you do this? And the answer for me will always be God. But yeah, it's weird, but it is what it is. And because you are unable to do it as a person, you get frustrated with yourself, and essentially what happens is you make that person feel bad about some of their personalities and characteristics. You chip away at them with sly comments and jokes about anything and everything. And it's mostly the things that you admire the most about a person. Because again, if you can successfully put them down about it, then hey, two's the party. And if two people are feeling that same way, you essentially feel better about yourself. It's kind of like before you go into an exam and you're outside the exam hall, and you go up to a person and you're like, oh my gosh, like, so what have you revised? And they're like, nothing. And you're like, oh my God, me neither. Like, we're both gonna fail this together. And you feel so much better about yourself. But no, like, you have no idea what you're doing, chipping away at people, making sly comments, making jokes about things that are them, are actually forming like the most negative strongholds. And sometimes you can genuinely be joking with someone and someone will take it in a way that you didn't necessarily expect them to, which happens, but you cannot tell a person how to respond to something or how to feel or how they should have responded. You need to acknowledge that their feelings are valid and that they've been hurt, and you apologize accordingly. But you need to differentiate between that and the lack of self-love kind of jokes and sly comments. To go further, I say who you spend, for you, it's also your responsibility to protect your space, protect your peace, protect your mind, protect your thoughts and God's thoughts about yourself. Who you spend a lot of time with can impact how you think about yourself. And so, for example, if you spend a lot of time with God, you start to think the way He thinks, and you think about yourself in the ways that He thinks of you. And it's the exact same with people. And so for me personally, I only want to aid people with positive strongholds, words that every time they're feeling down, every time they're feeling crappy about themselves, that they're able to jump back up and remember something that I'd said to them about how awesome they were. And it makes them basically want to soldier on. It shouldn't overpower what God says about them, but it should align with what God says. I think that's really important. Like every conversation that we have, everything that we say to people when we're advising people, what we say should be aligning with what God has to say. And if it doesn't, and it's the complete opposite of that, you're potentially contributing to someone's therapy time, and your lack of self-love becomes their therapy cost, which I just deep what I just said. Yeah. And thinking about all this made me think of the phrase, I'm sure when we were all kids, we got told this by our parents, our school teachers: if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Literally, you thought it applied when you were a kid to like petty things in the playground. No, it applies in real life. If you have nothing positive to say out of your mouth to add to someone else's life, keep it in your chest. Keep it in your chest. That's between you and yourself and you and God, how that statement carries out in life. Like, I don't want to hear it. Something else that I'd also say is just going back to the whole thing about having fear of other people's impact, positive impact in the world, And so the more we back each other, everybody wins. Like, everybody wins. And too many people sometimes have this thing where they're like, oh, too many people gas you, so someone has to humble you. Nah, you're just throwing shade on what is shining. And anyone personally, like I said, you have a personal responsibility to yourself to protect your space. So if anyone is able to throw shade on you because they think you get too much shine, be wary and pull yourself away. Because eventually, especially if you spend a lot of time with this person or these people, eventually you'll start to fall into that shadow, to fall into that darkness when you were not made to be hidden like that. The most ironic thing out of everything is that normally the victim of this will spend a very long time thinking that they're the problem. Maybe if they hadn't been as weak, maybe if they'd been more assertive, maybe if they hadn't been so open, so vulnerable, so clingy, whatever that means, they hadn't done too much, shown so much love and scared the person away. Maybe if they literally just hadn't been who they were. Maybe if they literally just hadn't been a friend and held the characteristics that a friend should, then people wouldn't have treated them in the way that they didn't deserve. That's the saddest part. When you go away to analyze your actions and your confusion about like, what did I do wrong, doesn't add up, and you feel lost in your kindness. When you have fully assessed the situation and you're still trying to work out what you're doing wrong, like obviously sometimes you can be a bit narcissistic and be like, I'm perfect, but sometimes genuinely you don't know what you did wrong or continue to do wrong. Sometimes start to assess the people that you're around and assess some of their actions and see whether they're the ones that are impacting you. So what I would say is, if you are lacking this self-love and you feel like what I've said has resonated with some of the things you've done to people, we're human. Things happen. And that doesn't mean you should be rendered like void, literally. But just be aware of it. I say this to be aware of it. Stop trying to box people whilst you work out how to unbox yourself. Don't go loving a neighbor until you can assure yourself that you are committed to continuously learning how to love yourself. And for you personally, if you feel like you're in these situations where you're being put down, you need to ask yourself, are you leaving these conversations with people? Are you leaving these parties with people? Are you leaving these gatherings with people feeling better about yourself or feeling downtrodden? Are you leaving these conversations, these phone calls feeling edified or stepped on. And if that's the case, you owe yourself the opportunity to step out these situations and either be on your own, which is not bad because you're never on your own, you're with God, or find better people. And that's not a crime. That's you protecting your peace and your space. Because can I be honest? If you constantly think about the things that people have said, you'll be spending so much time working on the things that people tell you about yourself, rather than working on the things that God actually wants you to work on. You're working on things that people have said when you probably already mastered them. So again, check your surroundings. And another thing is, a lot of us want to be, I think we've had some kind of awakening where a lot of us want to be doing what we were called to do. We may not know what it is, but every day is a step towards that. Every day you are fulfilling part of your purpose, whether it's helping the homeless man on the side of the street, whether it's having a beautiful conversation with someone behind the counter in a shopping center. Like every day you are fulfilling some part of your purpose. And to some people, the things that you do to do that may be too much. And people love to say that phrase, oh, you're doing too much, you're doing too much, you're doing too much. Can I be honest? You're going to be too much for some people, too little for some people, but just make sure that you are enough for yourself and God. Make sure that you can sit down and say, yeah, I'm so happy I did that. I'm so happy I did it that way. And normally that too much is literally just you being you. Like I said before, people can see your potential. People can see your high self-esteem. And when they can't see their own, it can be intimidating. It can be intimidating for any of us when we go around and we see people being so confident. You're like, damn, how did they get like that? Instead of you to go and ask that person, how did you get to where you got to, English. You're going to sit there and throw shade on their shine. Nah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. So like I said, don't make yourself small to accommodate people and their small thoughts about themselves and about you. And yeah, this will be part 1 of a video. I think I'm going to do another video. So yeah, if I do end up doing it, I will drop it. And that conversation will probably be about words, gossip, etc., etc. Because guys, people are really hurting and I think enough is enough. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, took something from it. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Deuces.